My father had always liked to make toasts, not sentimental ones. The kind that sounded casual enough to pass as humor but sharp enough that everyone understood where they stood in the family. That night the house was full, voices overlapping, glasses clinking, chairs scraping across the hardwood floor I'd helped pay to refinish. The renovation had taken months. Contractors, permits, late transfers from my account when the budget quietly ran over. No one talked about that part much. My sister's kids were sitting across the table, laughing with my parents. They were good kids, confident, used to being admired. My daughter sat beside me, legs swinging slightly under the chair, listening more than speaking. Dad stood and raised his glass. "To the grandkids," he said with that easy grin of his, "but especially to the ones who will actually make something of themselves." A few people chuckled the way families do when they don't want to examine a joke too closely. And then, like gravity, every pair of eyes drifted toward my sister's side of the table. No one looked at my daughter. She didn't react right away. She just kept staring at her plate, moving a fork through the potatoes like she was thinking about something complicated. The room filled with conversation again. Chairs shifted. Someone asked my sister about her oldest applying to a private academy. A minute later, my daughter leaned closer to me. Grandma didn't mean me, right? She asked it carefully, like she already knew the answer, but needed to hear something different. I felt a small pressure in my chest, something old, something familiar. I'd heard variations of that toast my whole life. My career choices had been interesting, my projects unpredictable. My sister had stability, predictability. I kissed the top of my daughter's head. "No, sweetheart," I said quietly. She nodded, accepting it the way children sometimes accept explanations they're not sure about. Across the table, Dad was pouring another drink. My mother was talking about school programs again. The conversation rolled forward as if nothing had happened. And for a moment, it would have been very easy to let it pass the way it always had. But my daughter was still sitting there, absorbing the room's version of her future. So I looked up. But I added, speaking toward the table, not raising my voice, "The people funding this house just changed. It wasn't loud. It didn't need to be." The words moved through the conversation like a draft through an open door. My father's chair scraped sharply against the floor as he leaned forward. "What's that supposed to mean?" he asked. I didn't rush to answer. I just took a sip of water. "For the renovation," I said calmly. "The contractor's last payment clears next week. After that, the mortgage bridge I set up ends." A few heads turned. My mother blinked. "Bridge." I nodded. The bank wasn't thrilled about extending things again, so I covered the gap. Silence spread slowly around the table. My sister frowned slightly, trying to piece it together. Dad's expression changed in a way I'd rarely seen before, not anger exactly, something more like recalculation. "You're saying you paid for this?" he said. "Most of it," I replied. I didn't elaborate. The numbers weren't important in that moment. What mattered was the shift. People started remembering conversations differently. Comments about the contractors. My frequent calls. The weekends I'd been here dealing with permits. My daughter watched the room the way children do when adults suddenly behave differently. My father cleared his throat. "Well," he said slowly, setting his glass down, "that's something you probably should have mentioned." I did. I said no accusation. Just a statement. He looked down at the table for a moment. No one raised another toast. The rest of the dinner moved in smaller, careful conversations. My sister asked me questions about the bank. My mother suddenly wanted to know how the permits worked. It wasn't dramatic, no apologies, no confrontations, just a quiet rearranging of gravity. Later, when we were putting on our coats, my daughter looked up at me. "Why were they talking to you like that?" she asked. "Like what?" "Like you were the boss." I smiled a little. "I'm not the boss," I said. "Sometimes people just don't know the whole story." Outside, the night air was cool and still. Behind us, the lights in the house glowed through the windows. The same house everyone had celebrated all evening. My daughter slipped her hand into mine. Inside, chairs moved again. Voices resumed, life going back to normal. But when we walked away, I noticed something through the window. My father wasn't raising his glass anymore.